I think as far as I remember, I've been competitive. I don't know if it's human nature, but it's my nature. I actually grew up on a tropical island, which is Réunion Island. It's French, but it's the other side of the world. It's 12,000 kilometers from France. The way I got presented to climbing was competition, and gradually it took a bigger space in my life. I was invited to see a World Cup in France. I just remember shining lights, and I didn't know anybody. I was with my little camera, and it was a dream mainly. On the plane back, I had 12 hours by myself, and I took the decision that I would leave the island to go train in a youth training center. So in 5 years, I went from discovering a sport to deciding I'm going to dedicate my life to that. And I would definitely do it again if I was 16, but it's as well the hardest thing I've done with my life. The turning point is when my mum died. Believing that you can win, it's a bit about believing that you're invincible. I think I always believed that when I was young, and obviously I didn't want my mum to die, and I thought I would be capable of stopping that happening, and I wasn't. The side effect was that I stopped believing 100% in myself, so I had been thinking about stopping, and then I won this one World Cup, and then poof, I knew something had just evaporated. I was really, really sure that it was time to give up competition, so I stopped. I was so focused that I have very, very few memories of my years as a competitor climber, because I was always looking forward into my little direction. I think I reached that period where I was looking at myself and not really liking the person I was. And changing was about maybe focusing a little bit less on me and a bit more on what's happening around me in the world, what people think, what people do, what people like. And that's where I started to realize that climbing was much bigger than just competition climbing. I was very happy being a sport climber and a competitor, but then I met James, who's a trad climber, and I had no idea what it was about, and I had no idea why he was so taken into it.
When I first met Caroline, we were actually in Turkey, in Antalya, and Caroline was this incredibly focused, driven sport climber and competition climber. She was totally oblivious that anything other than competitions existed. And I remember her saying to me that she'd been analysing who she was as a person, and there were some aspects of herself that she really didn't like so much. Her way to succeed in comps was basically I quote, "I want to kill the other competitors." So she was of that kind of mindset where everybody else was there to be destroyed, to be annihilated. Whilst she was still competing, she'd already started to dabble in trad. Mainly, I think, first as a way to understand what it was that I actually did. And she did her first really easy trad routes, and she was just like, oh my god, this is a different sport. Like, it's something that's so far away from what I knew was climbing that you can't even compare.
The first route I did, the first hard trad route I did, it just clicked, because what I like in climbing is the complexity of it. And trad climbing, you take the same thing and you add more complexity. Trad is maybe the most complex part to approach, because obviously you need to learn to move on the rock, but you need to learn to protect yourself, and you need to be able to assess your protection. That's actually the hardest thing. Today we're in Millstone, in the Peak District, on Great Stone, God's own rock. If you're really lucky, it's 20 meters high. Most realistically, it's less than that. a lot of the time in a route you're gonna have moments where you don't have any protections. But this is what it is about. It's about daring. It's barely about actually climbing. It's just really crazy. It took me a lot of years to understand, and there's still some practices that I don't understand at all. I think realistically I'm really far off being really bold. There's a huge margin. The problem with danger, it's everything's gradual. And I mean, breaking your leg, now I'm okay with that. It's fine. I just don't want to die. I think in one way I needed some rest, some holiday years after all the intensity of competition. But this year I've decided to set myself a goal, which is the Voie Petit. Why the Voie Petit? Because it's the Voie Petit. I had only seen the pictures of the Grand Capucin, but you can't miss it. You don't see it from the telepheric, but you walk, you turn a corner, and then you know that this is your goal. Arnaud Petit, he was a very brilliant competitor, but he's come from a more mountaineering background, so he's opened up some of the best routes all over the world. He's very good at communicating his love for the diversity of climbing.
Le Grand Capucin, c'est quand même une grande paroi en haute montagne. Même si on peut y aller avec des téléphériques pas très loin, c'est une paroi assez sauvage. Ce qui m'avait inspiré, c'est vraiment une photo vue du côté, une photo en noir et blanc dans un vieux livre où on voyait cette série de surplombs qui partaient dans le ciel. Et voilà, c'est souvent une image qui donne envie. Trouver la ligne, c'est pas très difficile, c'est juste un rêve. On se dit, on imagine pouvoir grimper là, et ensuite on va confronter notre imagination avec les possibilités. Et là, j'ai eu de la chance parce que tout marchait en libre, il n'y avait pas de zone trop lisse où il aurait fallu faire head climbing.
Arnaud, il a commencé à l'ouvrir en 97 avec son père pendant l'été. Ensuite, on était déjà ensemble depuis 1 an. Et puis moi, je faisais des compétitions. Et puis à la fin de l'été, puis ça m'intéressait. Il me parlait de ce qu'il ouvrait. Je dis waouh, ça a l'air génial. Et à la fin de l'été, son père, qui est prof, il a dû reprendre la rentrée et le travail. Et Arnaud, il était un peu désolé. Il me disait oh, j'ai plus personne pour aller en montagne. Moi, je devais aller à Arco, un master. Et j'ai dit pas de problème, je vais pas à Arco, je viens avec toi et on l'a fini si tu veux. Et moi, j'avais aucune expérience. Donc j'avais 20 ans, tu vois, alors on est partis tous les deux. Et puis c'est comme ça que j'ai découvert l'escalade en haute altitude. Pour une première expérience, c'était pas mal.
La voie, je l'ai ouverte en 1997. On a pu ouvrir la voie, mais j'avais estimé les longueurs, peut-être 8A+, 8B, mais j'avais vraiment pas fait les mouvements des longueurs dures. Ensuite, Alex Huber l'avait fait en 2005. Et voilà, quelques années plus tard, j'ai eu envie de finir cette aventure parce que ouvrir, c'est super, et pouvoir la faire en libre, c'est quand même un petit plus, bien sûr.
Ah non! Merde! Ah non! Oh non, dommage.
Après, 13 ans plus tard, on y est revenu ensemble avec Arnaud. Lui, il a pu l'enchaîner, puis moi, je suis tombée dans le 8B, donc je ne l'ai pas enchaîné en entier, mais j'ai fait l'ensemble de la voie aussi. Ouais.
C'est aussi un jeu d'en mettre le moins possible. Il y a des sections où ce serait très bien avec un split en plus, mais j'étais passé comme ça, en grimpant en tête, donc après, j'en ai pas rajouté. Puis ça ajoute quand même du caractère à la voie. Il y a quelques endroits où c'est mieux de ne pas tomber du tout.
Moi, ça m'a marqué parce que j'ai vu la façon dont Arnaud ouvrait. J'ai compris qu'il y avait une dimension beaucoup plus aventureuse de l'escalade qui m'avait jusque-là totalement échappé en fait. Et sinon, je me suis dit, mais l'escalade, c'est vraiment un truc super riche. Et au-delà des compétitions, il y a autre chose à découvrir, quoi. Et c'était capital pour moi, c'était la grande expérience.
I would never set myself a goal just on the reputation of a route. That's just not good enough. So I decided last year, I went twice in it to have a taste of it. And I really, really liked the experience because I think on the Grand Capucin, the rock is very good. The face is beautiful. The place is beautiful. One of the 2 times we were the only person on the mountain. That was really, really cool. I never started climbing for the danger. If you love life, you don't want to die until you're 80 years old. And I have a great life, so I really don't want to die. My definition of risk 5 years ago would be very, very different from my definition of risk today. This is really the influence of James, because he's the opposite of me. He's brought my definition of risk a little bit further. If I just keep on accepting more and more risk, it's just never gonna end well. But I feel like I'm very, very far from that limit of actual danger. Tu passes 20 grands pas là.
Là, on n'est pas dans la voie, on est en dessous du niveau du sol normalement. Je mets les 2 cordes.
Because it's really, really long pitches, you have to really run out the protections. So 90% of the time, you know, there's a ledge below you somewhere. There are really quite a lot of places where you would hurt yourself if you fell.
Right now we're in the second pitch. I say second pitch, but realistically for us today it's fourth pitch, because somehow we ended up climbing the first pitch with 2 belays. She got a bit stuck in the first pitch, so she made an intermediate belay. She mistook on the line during the second pitch, so made another mistake with the belay. And finally 3 belays later, and Caroline has just taken on the second pitch, the real second pitch, which is 7B, but really, really, really exposed.
Do you think you can hurt yourself falling off that?
I don't think so. From the very, very, very top, you might slide in the wall a bit.
The first time was a bit of a shock in the system, but I was expecting to get a slap in my face, and I definitely got a slap in my face. I didn't cry, but I was really scared all the time. I reached the AB and I was prepared to fight my way up the AB, and I did fight my way up the AB, and I was petrified. I was petrified on every single movement. I reached the top of the AB, and at first I was like, oh my god, the top is hard. But then I put myself together and realized, actually, I think if I have enough time to figure out the movement, if I get the good weather conditions, I can do that pitch. So at that point, I decided next year is fully focused on the Voie Petit.
Quelle heure il est là? On a démarré à 7h. Juste pour voir quelle heure il est là, James?
5 heures.
Ouais, on a quoi? Oh putain, on a passé 10 heures dans la voie déjà? Mais on a fait la moitié. Ouais. Falloir être plus rapide. Hein.
So when you're a young climbing kid, I was reading every single magazine about climbing that I could find, and Arnaud and Steph were some of my heroes. And then I followed their life after competition, and not many competitors move on that well from competition. I think the main reason is that Arnaud and Steph, they simply love climbing. I think that's the reason why the Voie Petit is one of their proudest routes. It's because it's one of the most beautiful. I think it's an important route for them, so it became an important route for me.
On s'est rencontrés, je me rappelle de Caro, toute jeune compétitrice, quelqu'un de passionné, tu vois, dans son regard on sentait une jolie jeune fille comme ça avec les regards, des yeux bleus magnifiques et puis tellement passionnée, qui nous posait des tas de questions et je me rappelle très très bien d'elle, quoi. Après, quand elle était très bonne compétitrice, je ne l'ai jamais vue en compétition. J'ai entendu. On me disait Caro, elle est très motivée, un peu, c'est très guerrière, quoi, warrior dans les compétitions. Mais moi, je n'ai pas vu parce que je faisais déjà autre chose. Là, on était avec Arnaud, on voyageait, on faisait des grandes voies. Parce qu'on a 9 ans d'écart avec Caro, donc c'est pas la même génération.
Donc le fait qu'elle s'intéresse à cette voie, ça paraît à la fois logique mais aussi ambitieux de sa part. Et ça peut bien lui correspondre. Elle doit pouvoir bien faire dans cette voie. Après, il y a plein d'aléas, on est en haute montagne, elle le sait, hein, il peut y avoir du mauvais temps, il peut y avoir de l'eau, de la glace, trop chaud parce qu'au soleil il peut faire super chaud à 3500 mètres d'altitude. Et puis une demi-heure après, hyper froid, les prises glissent et on ne sent plus les prises. Donc c'est une voie qui est vraiment pas facile à faire.
I've done a bit of granite climbing, I've done a bit of trad, and I've done a bit of multi-pitch, but I haven't done a single alpine multi-pitch yet. So I spent 6 months training individually all these different parts that compose alpine climbing. We've been like 3 weeks granite climbing. I've gone to England for some more trad climbing. Basically what the goal was is to just get used to being scared and dealing with the fear. I've always done a lot of visualization. I try to imagine every little thing about how it's going to be, how it's going to feel, what could happen that I haven't planned. It's just all mental, and this is why I'm liking that challenge. You don't do big projects like that by yourself. I was the one leading, but I did rely on people. Marion, she's an experienced mountain guide, and there's about 1% of female mountain guide in France. So clearly, if you're at that place, it's because you had the balls to push the boys. I trust her 100%. She knows everything that I don't know in mountaineering. I don't just trust her, I think we're very good friends now. We've spent quite a bit of time in different situations. She's been pretty much behind all the logistic. She's been the one telling us when to come up to Chamonix and when to make the tries.
So Caro, we did some climbing competitions as teenagers. I wasn't that good, so I quit the competition very early, like at 17. I quit everything and I started alpine climbing. I wanted to be outside. Being on the Voie Petit with Caroline was very exciting. I didn't feel like being a Sherpa or just a belayer. I really feel like I was part of the team. She knew she could trust me for all the other stuff, whether for cast, crevasses and alpine climbing. I think that was a release for her, so she could focus more on just the climb and just the hard pitches.
That's one of my big worry actually, the foot pain.
I had some days where I felt really confident when I would finish a route, or I had some days where I was really low when I would go climbing on slabby granite and fail in a 6C. So I had a lot of ups and downs, but what you learn in competition is to have a goal, train for it, focus on it mentally, and you have this one D-day to achieve it. And I know I've been able to transfer it to everything I've done, and I'm able to transfer it now to the Voie Petit.
The second pitch actually is probably the boldest of the route. 7B plus slab climbing, where for 4 or 5 moves at the end of the run out, you really can't fall off.
I had decided that fear would be left aside, so I had this little box of fear, but it was in a pocket, and I closed the box, and that was it. So I could just climb and focus very well on the movement and not put more pressure than necessary.
Only 11 more pitches.
In the 7B I had a massive fight. I didn't fall, but I got really pumped at the top of 7B. Did the 2 6Cs, no problem. It's at that point I had a bit of a habit. And then it was time for the 8B, and James went above me because we had some statics in place. And he was next to me on the rope, so it was really cool.
She set off up the first section, which is, it's not physically very hard, but it's technically quite demanding. She seemed okay, and then started the roof, and at that point, I could just see how totally, physically destroyed she was.
Come on, keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. Relax, come on. Ali, continue. Well. Ali. Ali. Ali, go.
going, come on. Relax, come on. Secure.
I'm looking out.
I had 2 minutes of just not thinking, not being able to do anything, just hanging on my harness.
Montre-moi ta main.
At that point, there's still 7 pitches to go that I didn't know. So at 4 p.m. there's no way I was going to finish the day. And we had prepared everything for the bivouac.
Tea time. I think it's 5:30. I'm ready to go to bed. But we have to eat first. And
Drink it.
and yeah, make the snow melt to make some more water for tomorrow.
I definitely think the BV has added a lot to the experience. After all, I'm not doing that for the tick, I'm doing that for the experience. And this is all that matters, and this BV is on the very top of my list of best memories.
I don't think I realized my head was so close from the edge.
I had barely slept, but I've learned from my competition years that even if you don't sleep, it doesn't matter because your body rests. I tired at 8 a.m, that's quite interesting. There were all these little voices telling me I'm not exactly 100%, but at that point, when you've done all the bottom, you can't be like, oh no, I can't do it, I'm too tired. You can't go back, it's just like the fear. You can't be like, oh, I'm giving up.
I just did the 80 pitch. It's quite technical and still quite physical at the same time. So now 4 pitch to go. I'm keeping my jaw inside for now, but I need to keep energy. But it's super cool, super cool, and it was so beautiful.
Once I had the idea in my pocket, there was no mistaking. I knew I could do it. I knew. When you've done all the Grand Capucin and your last two pitches are so beautiful, both the 6B and the 6A, I think Arnaud must have thought he was so lucky because the rock is perfect.
One down.
Climbing, I think, is not just about climbing, it's about the place that you discover. That's something that I've been discovering more and more since I'm climbing more outside. And I'm definitely not finished. This is a whole world that I had no idea of that. And I would do it again a million times. I just need a bit of rest now, but I would do it again, for sure.